Das Rennen, das startet um 9:04 Uhr mit der Mannschaft aus Kroatien, Alexander Friedrich. Eine information for the coaches. We have ice box, 1 minute in the box, 1 minute at the start. For the pilots, 1 minute. Vorbei, ganz zum Sunny Corner. Anfahrt zum Horseshoe. Die Bahn ist frei. Unterwegs Richtung Sunny Corner, Zeit für den Safety Box. 6:09 am Start, die Laufzeit 1:10. Unterwegs Richtung Selikana, noch die Zeit für Simon Friedrich, 6:5:33, gestartet auf die Laufzeit 1:27. Anfang zum Ausschuss, wenn Rettlich. Vorbei, kommt zum Friedrich. Zielschuss. Und Ziel 1. 15:45. Rennleiter bitte zu Wegensprecherleiter. Start Sven Rettlich. Noch 20 Sekunden. 10 Sekunden. Sven Rettlich, die Bahn ist frei. Gestartet. 5 Minuten Start, 5 minutes to go for Silich. Racer, 5 minutes to go. Startzeit 6:70, die Zeit für Marguerite 6:27 Start, 1:15, 45 deine Laufzeit. So was ich schon auch nicht von der Tafel, ich bin da recht überrascht.
Moritz in Switzerland, the originator of ice sliding, the longest, the fastest, and still the only remaining natural hand-built ice track in the business. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday in Moritz, and welcome to Two-Man Day. It's World Cup number 5 of the two-man bobsleigh competition. 28 sleds from 16 nations go into the first heat. The fastest 20 go through into heat 2 to decide our medalists. And this historic track, the Monte Carlo of ice racing, 1,700 metres. You start at nearly 1,800 metres above sea level in Moritz. From the start into kink 1 and kink 2. And the first notable corner is the left-hander called Wall. Keeping the sled nice and stable here, trying to avoid sliding, skidding and tapping. Snake 1 and Snake 2. Corners retaining the names they've had for nearly a century and a quarter. Out of Sunny and down into Nash and Dixon, named after the two-man gold medalist in 1964. British drivers who were members of the Moritz Bob Club. Out of Horseshoe through Telephone and Shamrock, then into the left at Devil's Dyke. This sets you up for the bottom part of the Forest Run through Nameless, and then the 4 right-hand corners: Tree, Bridge, Leap, which goes under the bridge, don't ask me, and Gunter Sachs, and then the straight down to Martineau. Across the Cresta outrun and into Portago, the final corner, crossing the line there and into the finish at the Frazzoni's Lodge. Well, the track has been modified slightly and lengthened at the outrun to take account of faster sleds over the last century, but remains on the same trace down through the woods that it has always used. In our two-man World Cup, Francesco Friedrich is the points leader from Johannes Lochner by a slender margin. Friedrich with 3 wins, Lochner with 1, but each of them medalists every time out. And only 3 other drivers have taken medals: Brad Hall, Marcus Treichel and Adam Ammour. There is Francesco Friedrich, looking to claim yet another victory. His last two-man win, which was in Winterberg, was his 50th. And Johannes Lochner, his arch rival here, 16 two-man wins and the two-man world championship here in 2023. Adam Ammour there crashed out of the two-man worlds, so he'll be looking for a bit of redemption here. Our start list: 28 sleds, so nearly a third of everybody who starts the first heat won't start the second. Drazen Silich of Croatia starts us off, and to get through the top 20, 3 German sleds. Adam Ammour joining Johannes Lochner and Francesco Friedrich. 2 British sleds, Brad Hall and Adam Baird, and Axel Brown with Shaquille John for Trinidad and Tobago. Let's get our race underway then. World Cup 5 of the IBSF two-man series, and it's Drazen Silich and Alexander Krasniqi who get us underway. Krasniqi, I beg his pardon. Drazen, 2018 Olympian, in his 17th two-man start. It's a 9th two-man World Cup for Alex, his 35-year-old brakeman. Good to see Drazen Silich keeping life alive in the Croatian bobsleigh team. 5:54 start records. Every year the track is hand-built afresh, same trace, same corners, pretty much, but it's always different, so the track records are set afresh every year. First man down in the World Cup always gets the start record, and even if you crash but cross the line, you will still set the track record, because it doesn't exist until now. Heading down from Nash and Dixon into Horseshoe, nice height, drives it off well into Telephone and Shamrock. 104 kilometres an hour, we'll get up close to 110 as the day warms up. Little flop there out of Devil's Dyke into Bridge, and then Leap, and then the Gunter Sachs curve brings you onto the straight down to Martineau. Little wave and a tap. Hubert Martineau, the first president of the Moritz Bob Club, and across the line, 1:08.64 track record. That may well be the first time in his career that Drazen Silich has made a track record. Comes into the finish area. Nice braking from Alexander Krajisnik. The champagne of thrills. Little wriggle out of Nash and Dixon, but the two-man sleds keeping themselves much more in form and in shape out of Nash and Dixon than the skeleton sleds were yesterday. Now, wherever you are, if you're just tuning in, wondering why does monobob look so different? Well, because of warm weather during training, there will be no monobob race this weekend. Two-man this morning, and then more four-man training and women's bobsleigh training this afternoon. Next up, Andrei Terea for Romania with Rarej Cința. 5:39 start record. So as we get the quicker sleds coming down, then we will see the records changing. May well see records set in both the first and in the second heat, as we did with skeleton yesterday. The overnight lows are so cold here that the track takes a little time to lose that nighttime frosting, and it snowed yesterday afternoon and evening as well. So the track crew have been working since way before dawn. 3/10 up out of Nash and Dixon, but a squirrely run into Horseshoe. Gathers it all up again. Well, Terea had a crash in training, hence there's a new bit of woodwork up in Horseshoe. Started off with the D-rings crossed over, so when you pulled to go right, it actually turned left, and really just lost control of all of that in Horseshoe. Went straight up into the roof, ripped the front off the sled. 1:08.51. Luckily, the crew all okay. But a worrying moment. No question at all about that.
Ready to go, 20 seconds.
Again, little drift coming out of Nash and Dixon. And puts him sideways, so a low line into Horseshoe, because it's critical to get the exit. Hits on telephone, not the tidiest run, but he is down. And currently ahead of Drazen Silich. Next up from Canada, Pat Norton and Mike Evelyn. Norton in his fourth two-man World Cup. Evelyn, who started his career in January 2021 with Chris Spring, starting his 10th two-man World Cup race. Pat Norton raced in the World Championships in 2023. His only time here, 5:26 start record. And a nice quiet run down from King 1 to King 2 and into wall. That's what you want. No skids, no sliding, no taps. Easier with the two-man with the weight on it than it will be with the monobobs when we see them. We'll be back in St Moritz in 2 weeks' time, and it will be a double monobob weekend. First time that's happened. Ooh, just a little squirmy out of Dixon. Nice out of Horseshoe. 3,600 up. Now the later start draws will actually be favourable here in St Moritz. So if you're coming outside the top 20, it's no longer the kiss of death, where the track has gone away. Here the track will get fast, a little tap into the Gunter Sachs curve. And a tap as well as he crosses the Cresta run, 1:07.95. So 3 start records in a row, 3 track records in a row. And then 2 sleds will get to Francesco Friedrich, so you can imagine that the records will be shifted there as well. Good opener from Pat Norton and Mike Evelyn. No real idea yet as to whether that's going to get them in the race or not. But nice run out of Nash and Dixon up to Horseshoe. Little tap here coming into the Gunter Sachs curve. And then between Martineau and Portago. So, have we got our cowbells ready? We probably should have. Not hearing much cowbell. Oh, what's happened to tradition? Cedric Follador with Luca Rolli for Switzerland. Follador's 15th World Cup start. In fact, his 20th, because he did 5 as a brakeman. Raced here in the Junior Worlds twice, and then in the World Championships and the World Cup. 5:27 getaway, and of course, although the track is new every year, the Swiss get some time on it over the Christmas-New Year break. It's built in late November, so it's not like it's available all year long. 300 up on Pat Norton. 900 up as he comes past Monty's Bolt. That's where you start when you're learning, through Nash and Dixon and down to Horseshoe. Nice straight line into Horseshoe, gets that nicely sorted out. Good through Telephone and Shamrock. 107 in the Forest already. We're closing up towards 110 kilometres now. We should get there at least in the second heat. 118.9 at the bottom. And then out of the Sachs curve we'll hit top speed down here, 140.7, 87.5 miles an hour. New track record, 107.13. It's a nice looking run from Cedric Follador. He sees the time, okay, a bit comme-ci, comme-ça. Well, they were 100th slower than the start of Pat Norton and Mike Evelyn, the Canadians, so they didn't get a start record. And lifting the sled there, Luca Rolli probably not helping with that, but a good drive down from Cedric Follador. So his 15th World Cup race as a driver, his 20th two-man in total. Next up is Francesco Friedrich with Alexander Schuller. They were the silver medalists in the race here last year, and the silver medalists in the World Championships here in 2023. It's the 104th two-man World Cup race. There's the new start record, 5:07. Here we go. 104th two-man World Cup race. And in his first race here, Francesco Friedrich in the two-man, in his first World Cup start, his brakeman slipped at the start and did not get in. Friedrich drove all the way down. He told us a while ago, he said, I just thought the track was really skiddy. The sled was all over the place. It was all I could do to get it on and off the corners. I had no idea. I knew something had happened at the start. He didn't know that his brakeman hadn't got in, and it was only when he shouted for the brakes and there were none that he realised the trouble he was in. 5,500 ton. Lovely smooth drive through the forest from Francesco Friedrich. 74 miles an hour in the Forest, 87.6 as he crosses Martineau and Portago, and at the finish line 106.41. So Friedrich 7/10 ahead of Cedric Follador. He's had 5 wins on the track here. I'll correct myself, he took victory last time out. It was silver medalist in the Worlds behind Johannes Lochner. Won the two-man Worlds here in 2013 with Janis Becker. Came in as the junior world champion that year. And Janis Becker, the unfortunate brakeman who missed the sled in their first World Cup start here. Next up, Friedrich Baumgartner of Italy. And we have 3 Italian sleds in the field. Baumgartner with Eric Fantazzini, the 28-year-old in his 11th two-man World Cup race. Friedrich Baumgartner, 30 now. It's World Cup start number 47 for the Italian. Having a good season this year. 4th, 8th, 7th and 6th. 6th, 8th, 7th and 6th. So a very firm top 10 contender this year. hasn't broken into the two-man medals yet. It is packed with talent, this field. Little tap coming down into Sunny. Now don't forget, he seems like he's a long way away, but Francesco Friedrich 7/10 ahead of Cedric Follador. 5500s back at the moment, the third fastest run with a top 3 time as well. Follador just a whisker quicker. Pat Norton of Canada in third place at the moment, 1.5 seconds off the lead, so nearly 7/10 behind Follador. This will be third at the line for Baumgartner, 107.23. So a 10th behind Cedric Follador. We're starting already to rack up the sleds in the 6 to 16 group that we always end up with. Manny Mahata there helping with the sleds. Winner here in 2011 in the two-man. Nice height in horseshoe. Watch the runner tips as he drives the sled off nicely. Not too much steering, just got that arc nicely sorted out through horseshoe. If you have to haul it off, you're really slowing yourself down and not using that acceleration. Next up for the USA, Frank Del Duca with Carsten Vissering. Vissering in only his second two-man World Cup, raced in race 1 in Sigulda in December, behind Frankie. Frank's first race here was as a brakeman with Cody Basque in January 2022. 5:20 start, that's strong from the Americans. And these MUSA sleds built in Lake Placid, really fighting for supremacy with the front-running equipment. Americans got good sleds on their hands. 1300s back from Francesco Friedrich at the start. Second on the splits. 13th place here in last year's race. His best result in St. Moritz, Frank. 4th best speed in the forest. 64.8 miles an hour, but still second on the split times. That's the digit on the bottom right. He's in the red behind the leader. Cedric Follador is currently second at the line, 7/10 back. Del Duca is going to be close, but should be in front of him by 1/10 of a second, 6200s back. Good run from Frank Del Duca. Coach is loving that, 107.03. Now the track gradually will start to warm up. There's Taffy Latour helping the guys with the sled.
From Latvia, Jekabskalinda, Matis Viknis, 20 seconds, 20 seconds.
Let's see how those spikes grip the ice, digging it up as the athletes run. And in the four-man, they'll be running it down almost to kink 1. Two-man running a little less far, getting in while the drive lines.
Thanks, guys.
There you go, Mark Vandenberg. That's his pride and joy. Next up for Latvia, 18th World Cup two-man race for Jēkabs Kelander. Mats Miknis behind him. Has been scheduled to race the last 3 outings in two-man and four-man, but has pulled out of each of them, so finally makes his 56th two-man World Cup start. He started 57 four-man races as well. An absolute beast, 5:20, starting as fast as the Americans. So right in with there, and this will give us an idea of what would be the traditional customer sled, the BTC sled built in Latvia by Janis Skratstins, how it compares against the MUSA sled of Frank Del Duca. Kelander, nice height in horseshoe. I think Frankie was about 3rd fastest in the forest. And Kelander losing a little bit of ground there. Before Mark Vandenberg's sleds came on stream, the Americans had the Bodine sleds, then a few years with BMW sleds, then they've been using BTC or whatever else they could buy on the open market. All big skids into Portago, has to bring it down a little early. 107.25, fifth fastest run. A few too many errors creeping in there for the Latvians. BTC aren't Latvian-specific sleds, but built in Latvia, the Latvians tend to end up using them a lot. Nice height in horseshoe. Let's take a look at Telephone as he drives it off. And then further down, little tap coming on to Devil's Dyke. So it was late onto Telephone, late on Shamrock, and then between Martineau and Portago. Looks like everybody's getting that little late slide off Martineau. Probably going in faster there than they have been throughout training. Johannes Lochner has Georg Fleischauer behind him for a 14th time together. 69th World Cup two-man for Hansi. 5:11 start, very strong starting. Only 400s behind Francesco Friedrich. The two-man world champion here in 2023, and having finally beaten France to a two-man world championship gold, it was a bit of a question mark as to whether Lochner would go, okay, now I'm done, that is it. There could be nothing better than that. Beating the all-time two-man expert to the two-man world championships. But he's come back and competing for another quad heading into the Olympic Games, and he has a slender advantage and best speed, 67 miles an hour. Now Friedrich a fraction quicker, there's still a long run down to the line. Second best speed, this is going to be very close indeed. Has to be a track record to take the lead, is a track record, does take the lead. Five hundredths of a second in it, over a mile of ice. Outstarted by 400s. Oh, they didn't get the cleanest drive either. Hansi nearly missed the handles there. See him sort of over-leaning on those handles, so instead of all of the force being forward, some of it was pushing down. But a great drive from the Bavarian. These two have so much fun together. Well, he got out of the sled both times in Winterberg, disappointed, not so here. Now then, Brad Hall, Greg Cackett back together. 18th time these two have slid together in a two-man World Cup race. It's a 58th start for Brad. One medal so far in a two-man this season, and a four-man win in Germany last weekend. Made the news headlines across the UK on Monday. First time anybody has mentioned bobsledding in the UK since the Winter Olympic Games in 2022. Well, Brad, 500s back at the start, but losing ground rapidly, 2400s back. Needs to have a very good bottom part of the track to be swinging for medals here. Drives it off nicely. Little flop off Telephone, skid into Devil's Dyke. Only the fifth best speed. Third on the splits, but half a second back. We still have Adam Ammour and a lot of other good drivers to come. Good speed at the bottom, 141.4. What wax do they use on the sled? 5800s at the bottom, 106.94. Sean Olsen on the left, Graham Richardson on the right. The British coaching duo. 106.94 for Brad Hall and Greg Cackett.
Sorry, I missed that. Oh, bottoms.
Well, Hansi almost missed the front handle. Let's see. Oh, we don't see the start, but Greg obviously not happy with the start, maybe the initial break from the block or the load. Either way, nice run up to Horseshoe for Brad Hall. Good height, passing the new woodwork that the Romanian sled created there. See the runners just driving the sled off. Right, they are in the hunt for medals, third after the first 10 sleds out of our field of 29. Race 5, IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup in St. in Switzerland. 11th starter in the first of our 2 heats, Li Chun-jan, with Shi Yao Long behind him, the 18-year-old brakeman who's joined the team this year. Li has done all but one of the World Cup starts this season. Clearly, Shi rather has with Li. Clearly, Li Chun-jan happy with his new addition to the team. 900th back at the start with a 5:20 getaway. And this sled should also be somewhere between 6 and 20. 10th in the World Cup in 2022 is his best result here. He was 16th last winter. 6/10 back, 7th spot at the moment. So ahead of Latvia's Jēkabs Kellender. But losing ground off the 4th best start, 6 speed at the bottom. He'll be ahead of Pat Norton. 8th place at the line. 107.34, and that will probably see him somewhere down in the 15 to 20 range. Brakeman getting a little confused as to exactly where to pull on the anchors. The good news here is that you never run onto concrete, because there isn't any. You do end up on rubber matting, though. That tends to get a little bit gritty. Here's Horseshoe. Climbs up. There's that little horseshoe sign. That's sort of the apex marker for the drivers, but they're not looking at it. If they get the right entry, they will get the right parabola. So track clear for our next sled, Austria's Markus Treichel, with Diane Nichols-Bardi behind him. A 6th time this pair have raced together. Treichel's 61st World Cup start in two-man, 14th here last year. World Championships raced here as well in 2023, but his best World Cup result here, a 12th place the year before in February 22, just prior to the games. Well, they started 7th fastest, and Treichel has only once been outside the top 10 this year. That was in 11th place in Altenburg. He should be definitely aiming for single digits all the way through. 4th on the splits from 7th at the start. This is another good drive from Markus Treichel. 3rd on the splits. Really strong performance from the Austrian. 6th best speed at the bottom. Is he going to be ahead of Brad Hall in 3rd place? Tight, dead heat, 106.94. Big smile from Wolfgang Stampfer. Well, as ever, the Austrian working his magic on the sleds. Stampfer's sleds were never the most expensive, never necessarily the newest, but boy, there was something that he did with them that always got great top speed numbers. And he seems to still have that magic. Stampfer modifying the Austrian sleds. Bronze medal in the two-man race in Sigulda. His first in two-man for Markus Treichel. And he's in the hunt for medals here as well. Come on, there's the cowbell. Let's hear it from the Swiss fans. Second of our Swiss lads, Timo Rohner, a legendary name in Swiss bobsledding. His father, Marcel Rohner, hugely successful. Greg Jones was supposed to be on the sled, but it's Mathieu Herbstberger who makes his third World Cup start behind Timo. 13th World Cup race for Rohner. Raced here in January 2019. His World Cup debut here was 8th in the World Championships in 2023, though a really strong result. And from an 8th fastest start, 5:23 already up into 7th on the splits. 4th on the splits. Track is speeding up quickly as the sun comes over the mountains and the air temperature starts to lose that overnight frostiness. 3rd best. Great looking run from Timo Rohner. Little tap away in Devil's Dyke. Flops on the exit. Takes some speed out of the sled. Well, he's still hunting Marcus Streicher and Brad Hall. Going to be close with them as well. 5800s back, they are. Oh, 4700s back. 900s in front, 106.83. 1100s in front. So Timo Rohner, 3rd place with Mathieu Herbstberger. Rohner's Bulls, that was the name of his team in his youth. Not that he's elderly now, at just 27. Nice late height, drives it down well into telephone. And then just late off Shamrock, gets nudged away coming into Devil's Dyke. But a good run, top 3. Next up for Korea, Kim Jin-soo and Kim Hyung-hyun. 7th World Cup race for these two together. The brakeman did 2 and 4 here in January 2022, the last time he was racing on this track. 5:13, that's a strong start from the Koreans.
Very good start time, 5:13.
Well, that is the 3rd fastest start at the moment. And again, with slightly less frosty, faster ice, has a good opportunity to get in among the front runners. Oh, and there's the opportunity completely gone. Somehow managed to get it onto Horseshoe. But waving all over the place, not in control at all down here in the forest. Now gathers it back up again, but all the speed is gone. 3rd fastest down to Sonny, and now look at the legacy of that Nash and Dixon exit across the line, 9th place. And he's probably lucky he didn't do that as one of the first 3 or 4 out. Otherwise, he would likely be down in 12th, 13th, maybe 14th place. 8900s back, tied with Jacob's calendar. Exeter Dixon stays on it too late, gets slammed into the wall, pinballed around. Look at his eyes, focused on the line he needed for Horseshoe, came in very late. Climbed sharply, didn't panic, but took a big steer to come off. And then down in the forest, out of Shamrock, big hit going into Devil's Dyke. Ivo Danilevich will try and help sort those little issues out as we get ready to go now with Monaco's Boris Vian and Artur Prevost. 5th time together for this duo in the 2-man World Cup. 10th World Cup start as a driver for Big Boris. Made 24 World Cup appearances as a brakeman. The red jacket, his coach Bruno Michon. In the blue jacket on the right, Max Robert. Boris Vian raced here 3 times as a brakeman with Rudy Rinaldi for Monaco. 5:23 getaway. 4th place finish. a couple of weeks ago in the second race in Sigulda, just before the Christmas New Year break. Boris is getting perilously close. 9th fastest getaway, 10th at the moment. Nice exit out of Nash and Dixon. Not a great height in Horseshoe, but drives it off smoothly, keeps the speed alive. 5th best speed. 66.8 miles an hour. Up to 6th place on the splits. This might even be a top 4 run at the bottom. 4th place, Marcus Treichel, Brad Hall, tied together, 5800ths behind the leader. And Boris Van not quite going to get to them, but 6th. That is a very good run. Tenth place here in last year's race. Shows that he has got the ability to get a sled well down here. Raced in the World Championships as well the year before. Brakeman leaps in. Didn't make a good job of that, I'm afraid. Good start, but Artur Prevost needs to work a little on that. That's the exit Horseshoe. Working on that as well. Johannes Lochner, Francesco Friedrich, Timo Rona, the top 3 as we get to our 16th sled. Adam Ammour and Benedikt Hertel. 8th time together for this duo. They raced here into 6th place last year in the 2-man. 5:06 star record, phenomenal stuff. Big Benedikt Hertel really coming alive with Adam Ammour in this sled. Gives Ammour all the ammunition he needs. Finished in 6th place last year, crashed out of the 2-man worlds. And that really shook him. He was definitely a medal contender, but it really knocked his confidence. He came back strongly in the 4-man week the week after, though. 3 crashes in 3 trips in Sigulda before Christmas New Year, and again bounced right back with a silver medal last week in the 2-man in Winterberg. His mental resilience is as good as his driving ability, and he's still just keeping his nose in front of Francesco Friedrich. The slightly faster ice is helping. Speed's not quite enough. It's not going to be a track record. He is just ahead of Friedrich. Doesn't get Johannes Lochner, but he is 100th ahead of Friedrich. 2nd at the line. Well, you hear the driver's not happy, but the brakeman will be. Start record. Look at the size of Benedikt Hertel. Now, I'll grant you, Adam Ammour isn't the tallest driver, but Hertel, he's a bit of a man-mountain. Late exit out of Horseshoe. Yeah, got hung up. And do you know what? It looks so tiny, that's probably worth a 10th. He knows he could have led. Matthias Hoffner going, don't worry, you've got it. That's fine. Everyone makes mistakes. Next up, second of our 3rd Romanian sleds. This is Mihai Tintea, with Gheorghe Dash behind him for the 6th time this season. I beg your pardon, for the 6th time in his career. It's his 4th start this season there behind Mihai. 11th career 2-man race for the brakeman. 35th for the driver. There's our photographer Fiestas getting the action out of kink 1. Nice quiet drive down required from everybody, especially when you're starting behind the 8 ball, 5:27. So 2100ths behind the fastest start of Adam Ammour. 1600ths behind Johannes Lochner at the start, but the gap is opening up. 4400ths at the moment. Oh, and a double tap up to Horseshoe. 5th best speed from Mihai Tintea. And again, the Romanian sleds always seem to get good numbers in the speed traps. Trying to stop the bleeding. He's already outside the top 12. Can he come back in and challenge for a top 10 run? Kim and Callender tied for 11th. Baumgartner 10th. Terea 10th. Baumgartner down to 11th by 500ths. What was an untidy top part of the track. He got it together where it counted, where you make the speed a little lower down. He gave away too much time early on. 18th place in the World Cup here last year. Nice height for Silich and Terea. Watch the runner tips. Holds it, then drives it off. Little tiny steer. Drives it nicely down into telephone. And that's really where he started to make his speed all the way to the line. Mattia Variola for Italy, making his 31st World Cup start as a driver, 9 as a brakeman. Raced here in the World Cup and Europe Cup back in 2016 on brakes for Giovanni Mulisano. Giovanni started as a World Cup standard. There he is on the left-hand side, World Cup standard skeleton athlete. Converted to become a bobsleigh brakeman, then driver, now coach. 5:22, good strong start with Riccardo Ragazzi behind. Ragazzi in only his second two-man World Cup. The brakeman has 5 two-man races in his career and 8 in 4-man. Strange noises from the Italian sled, something loose flapping inside it. Or maybe one of the panels on the underside is chattering away in the breeze. 9th at the start, 11th at Horseshoe. Losing ground. 1300s back. Not only is this the longest track, it is also the fastest. We get higher speed numbers here than anywhere. And so any anomaly in the airflow is not going to help. 15th at the line, 107.35. Now the coaches will be able to watch the run on the monitors. What they won't do is hear what we're hearing. I was making a strange noise. I'm not sure I've heard that before from this sled. Definitely sounded like something hadn't been fastened and was rattling around. Well, it gets rattled off the entry to Devil's Dyke. Came late off Shamrock. And again here, little skid coming late out of leap into Gunter Sachs. $18 sleds down in our field of 28, 10 to go, only 2 more places left in the race. Sun Kai-chi and Sheng Heng, 12th here together last year. This is their 11th two-man World Cup start together. Sun also raced in the Junior Worlds back in 2018 on this track. Had 2 World Cup starts here, 12th place last season, the best of them. World Cup best ever, Beijing, November 23, the first race of last season, where he finished 11th. So St. Moritz, his second best track. And off a 5:19 start, he's got an opportunity to put in a good run here again. It's about time we saw Sun Kai-chi back in the top 10. Or in the top 10, and this might be the day it happens. Maybe not, there we go, cursing him already. 6th at the start, 7th at Horseshoe, losing ground though. Speed not where it needs to be. And again, little wave coming into Gunter Sachs. Tap and a skid down the straight. Martino Portago contact, almost mandatory. 107.42, 16th. Not the run he was looking for. No brakes required until you know you've come under the railway bridge. And then you start to get into the uphill, the big deceleration zone to the finish here. Take a look at the start. Driver gets in cleanly. Brakeman vaults in, trying to use his body weight to add some drive to the sled. But symptomatic of what happened there, little taps all the way through. That was down going into Sachs. 20th sled, Great Britain's Adam Baird and Austin Millward together for the third time. Millward has made 3 two-man World Cup starts, 3 four-man World Cup starts. That's his total career to date. Adam Baird in his 6th two-man World Cup outing. Raced in 2 and 4 in Europe Cup in February last year. That's his only outing on this track. So for 14th best start, let's see what the British duo have got. Again, everybody now benefiting from slightly warmer ice, a slightly faster track than the earlier starters. You must take advantage of that. Little tap going into Sunny, drifting out to 17th on the split times. Nice exit out of Horseshoe, that'll help to build the speed. 15th best speed, he's the 20th sled. So quicker probably than the first 3 or 4 that came down. Not quicker than the 5th sled out, that was Friedrich, who's currently in 3rd. Nice looking run, 16th, 17th at the bottom, that might just be enough to make it into the second heat. And Adam Baird, 17th at the line, 107.53. So World Cup best result of 10th place in race 1 in Sigulda. Shakes his head a little. Couple of errors creeping into that one. Race 1 in Sigulda. 2 British sleds in the top 10 for the first time in, well, nobody's really quite sure. Quite a long while. Good height in Horseshoe. Nice late exit. Not overdriving the sled either, just guides it gently onto Telephone. That was a nice exit. A little skiddy and tappy earlier on when it was slower. There's Adam, and a tall figure of Austin Millward behind him. 20 sleds down here in St. Moritz, 8 still to come. World Cup number 5, IBSF two-man bobsleigh. We're in St. Moritz in Switzerland, 21st of our 28 starters. Austria's Jakob Mandelbauer and Gregor Glaboniaks behind him. 5th two-man World Cup together. First World Cup outing here for Mandelbauer as well. Raced here in the World Championships in 2023 in the two-man and did Europe Cup last season as well here. So a couple of weekends spent on the track. 5:29 start. Now starting outside the top 20. He's got to try and go faster than some of the previous sleds to get into the second heat. Little skid down to Horseshoe and a tap. Nudges him away. 19th on the splits. Currently ahead of Andrei Terea and Dratzen Silich. 18th on the splits. Next target to try and get ahead of Adam Baird of Great Britain, but a couple of mistakes in the fast flowing forest section. Going to take speed away. Up to 18th place ahead of Pat Norton. And across the line in 18th. So no second heats for Croatia's Dratzen Silich. 10th behind Adam Baird in 17th. And 3200s ahead of Pat Norton in 19th. So the first 3, Silich, Terea and Norton, not only were they outside the top 10 seeds, but also they had the frostiest ice. So those first 3 start draws are absolute poison. Double tap heading into Horseshoe. The second one actually sort of nudged Mandelbauer towards the correct entry side. The driver's right coming onto Horseshoe. Not enough, but it helped. So Mandelbauer in the race at the moment, 2 behind him and 7 sleds to come. not guaranteed. Next up, Mickey Vogt with Andy Haas behind him. Mickey Vogt finished in the bronze medal position in last year's World Cup race. Andy Haas fourth last year with Simon Friedrich, and was with Mickey Vogt when he made his World Cup return in Winterberg last weekend. They finished in 7th place. World Championship bronze in 2023, bronze last year for Mickey Vogt. Still recovering from that horrible accident in training in Altenburg towards the end of last season. But his driving is still great. Look at the speed, 108 kilometers an hour nearly. That's over 67 miles an hour. And Mickey Vogt, off the 6th fastest start, is in the top 4 and looking for a top 3. And with the faster ice underneath him, 2nd best speed, he might get there. Brad Hall fastest through the forest and at the bottom. Mickey Vogt 4th, ahead of Timo Rona, Marcus Treichel and Brad Hall. Well, 6th at the start, 4th at the bottom. Top 3 covered by just 500ths of a second. Mickey Vogt 43 hundredths behind the leader in 4th place. So the battle is not going to be for the medals unless somebody has a horrendous second heat. But a top 4 finish. He'll be battling with teammate Timo Rona, with Marcus Treichel, with Brad Hall, with Boris Vian, with Frank Del Duca. Probably not with Martin Krantz and Lawrence Lenher. Now, is that snow starting to fall, or is that blowing off the top of the shades? I think snow is starting to come in. So Martin Krantz and Lawrence Lenher together for the 5th time in World Cup racing for Liechtenstein. It's the driver's 6th World Cup start. Silver here in January last year in the under-23 Junior Worlds. 5:43 getaway. So 22nd fastest start. He's going to have to drive himself into the race. Did so last year from a low start draw. Finished in 20th place. Now, for the last 2 races, Martin Krantz has pulled start draw number 1, which has been very favourable. Here, that is absolutely the poison chalice, and he'll have been very happy to get start draw number 23 rather than 1. Nowhere else is that the case. 22nd at the start, up to 21st, so he's ahead of Dratzen Silich at the moment, and ahead of Andre Terea, who's been bumped out. Pat Norton on the bubble in 20th place. 20th place at the moment on speed for Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. He's going to knock the Canadians out. He does. He's in 19th. Jakob Mandelbauer now is on the bubble. 1:07.61. 200ths faster than Mandelbauer, and those 200ths might keep him in the race. It might not, but it might.
Yeah.
So Liechtenstein are in, Canada are out. Pat Norton started 3rd. He's out. Andre Terea started 2nd. He's out. Dratzen Silich started 1st. He's out.
Ready to go.
Well, Norton might have made the race otherwise. Martin Krantz not yet guaranteed to make it through. Ursula Hildebrand holding Andre Nietzsche's sled. There's the green light. Don't go before it. Don't go before it goes red after 60 seconds. Don't go after it goes red after 60 seconds either. So Andre Nietzsche with Mihai Kalansea behind him for a 3rd time. And Nietzsche coming back to the track on which he won Youth Olympic gold in boys monobob in 2020. Under-23 Junior World Championship bronze medalist here in the 2-man, and gold in the 4-man last year as well. This is a track with which he clearly gels. 22nd at the start. Have I just oversold him? Started 100th quicker than Martin Krantz of Liechtenstein. He's not going to make the race, not after that though. Youth Olympic champion 2020. And Nisa is going to slip out. 22nd at the start, 22nd at the bottom, not going to make it into the race. So at the moment, Mandelbauer breathes easy again. Third World Cup start for this duo, but not making the cut this time. They didn't in the season opener in Sigulda, and they didn't in Winterberg last weekend either. It takes time to learn, and you are at the absolute elite level of the sport here. Brakeman did not get in at all well there. Got his knees caught up, got his feet caught up in the sled, and then this huge skid down to Horseshoe. He knew then he wasn't in. He knew. Taylor Austin for Canada with marks and net on the brakes for the first time ever in a World Cup race. The 24-year-old brakeman has had one two-man race. North America's Cup in Whistler in November, and 4 four-man starts, including his World Cup debut in Winterberg last weekend. Taylor Austin's 11th World Cup race. Raced here in January 22 to 18th place in the World Cup, and then Taylor crashed out of the 23 two-man worlds. 22nd start, 5:41. Nice and quiet down to wall. And then into snake 1 and snake 2. Up to Sunny. Little tap on the exit of snake. Seen a lot of sleds taking that. Nicely onto Nash and Dixon. Takes the tap, double tap on the way out. Up to Horseshoe. Nice quiet exit from Horseshoe. Late onto Shamrock, late onto Devil's Dyke. Out of Nameless into Tree. Bridge. Leap. Keep it straight into Gunter Sachs. Keep it straight out of Sachs, down towards Martineau. Final corner after the Cresta run, named after the Marquis de Portago, bobsledder, member of the St. Moritz Bob Club and racing driver. 1:08 dead for Taylor Austin, and 22nd at the line, not enough to get him in. So neither of our Canadian sleds, Taylor Austin 22nd, Pat Norton in 21st, make it in. And this double tap down to Horseshoe certainly didn't help, but he was always just outside making the cut.
Good looking, Park City.
Next up for the Netherlands is Dave Wesselink with another World Cup two-man debutant, Joris Pals behind him. Joris has 8 two-man races so far and made his 4-man World Cup debut last week. But after a crash last week in the 4-man, Joris is the only healthy brakeman. So Dave Wesselink, 2nd World Cup start, did race here in the Europe Cup and Junior Worlds in January 2024. So has reasonable recent experience, 5:36 the getaway. And unfortunately, Jelen and Janko Francic both with injuries from the crash last weekend. 1 broken rib, 1 fractured shoulder. So it looks as though this will be the only time we see the Dutch sled. Now, if he can make the second heat, we will get a second look at him in the 2-man race. Just drifting away a fraction, but the speed is good. Oh, hard hit there onto Devil's Dyke. Drifting out at 22nd place. Speed is still there. If he's clean down towards the bottom, he could make it in. No skids. 19th best speed at the bottom. Is it enough? I'm not sure it is. It's him or Jakob Mandelbauer, and he slips another spot down to 23rd, doesn't make it through. There's Ivo de Bruin on the right, the coach. 1:08.11. So it does not make it through into the second heat. 22nd last weekend on his debut in Winterberg, and 23rd here today. These tracks take time to learn. And when you're short on knowledge, then even the best drivers, or future best drivers, are going to struggle, because you're still trying to figure out where you're going. It's not instinct yet, like it is for some of the quick guys. Well, that's it, I think, for St. Moritz, for Dave Wesseling. Next up, Alex Verginer, our third Italian sled, making his World Cup debut, a brakeman from December 2017 up to the Pyeongchang Games, I beg your pardon, Beijing Games, and another debutant behind him, Mauro Lambrughi. One two-man race for the brakeman and two four-man starts, all in December last year. So absolutely new team together for the first time. 5:21 is an excellent start. Mauro Lambrughi and Alex Verginer, 11th fastest start. Can he drive it in from here? 6 World Cup starts as a brakeman for Verginer. His first back in December 2017. 18th place. He could be in the race. We could have 3 Italian sleds in the race. Jakob Mandelbauer in 20th place, Verginer in 18th. 23rd speed in the bottom, late exit off Martineau. Oh, 20th at the line. He is in and Jakob Mandelbauer is out. 1/100th of a second is the difference. Well, a nice start, 5:21, and Verginer in the race with 1 to go. Well, here as he comes out of Gunter Sachs, just gets a little drift, but it was the late exit here that almost did for him. Nearly rolled out of Martineau, and then completely on the wrong side into Portago, got across the line, 100th in front. Final sled for Trinidad and Tobago, Axel Brown, and the rookie, Shaquille John, making his two-man World Cup debut. Raced in the Olympics in 2022, the World Championships in 23, the brakeman. Those are 2 of his 8 previous two-man races, and Axel Brown making his 3rd World Cup start. Axel was here last year, did training, didn't race in the end. And they start 22nd fastest, gives Trinidad and Tobago a chance to be in there. Still 22nd on the splits. Nice looking line. Axel started his career as a Team GB brakeman. Driving now for Trinidad and Tobago, 14th best speed. This is promising. It's him or Italy's Alex Verginer, 13th best speed from the Trinidad and Tobago sled. Looking good down towards the bottom, 12th best speed, clean exit. Is it enough to make the race? How close does he get? He doesn't do it. 1:07.72. In the end, he was 1/10 of a second away. Good looking run from Axel Brown, but he's seen the time, not enough to make the second heat. His third World Cup outing, his first of the season. Nice height in horseshoe, watch for the runners. Little steer there, and then releases the steer as he knows he's coming off on the right line. Shaquille John tucked down in nicely behind him. The 23-year-old brakeman making his two-man World Cup debut. So working his way down, Olympics, then World Champs, and now finally into the World Cup. So Axel Brown and Trinidad and Tobago, our final two-man sled. They will race in four-man tomorrow, but at the top of the pile is the world champion in two-man here 2 seasons ago, Johannes Lochner and Georg Fleischauer. They have a tiny lead, but they have a lead. A little smile from Hansi. 400s ahead of Adam Ammour, 500s ahead of Francesco Friedrich, no one else in it. So from Mickey Vogt on down, it's the battle for what's known here as the greater podium. 4th, 5th, 6th and beyond. Vogt, Rona, Treichel, Hall, Boris Van, Frank Del Duca, and behind them Cedric Follador, Mihai Tentea, Patrick Baumgartner, Kim, Calendar. I mean, tiny gaps all the way down. Look, Lee and Variola 100th apart, and then Sun ahead of Adam Baird, Martin Krantz and Alex Bergen are the final sleds to make it through. Jakob Mandelbauer, Axel Brown, Pat Norton, Taylor Austin, Dave Vesselink, Andres Terea and Nika and Dratzen Silich will join the crowd to watch the action on what is a sunny morning here in St. Moritz. And you can be with them. Free, gratis and for nothing. Join us as we go live again at 10:30 CET, 09:30 GMT, 23 minutes from now.